So how old were you when you were diagnosed with scoliosis?
So I was first diagnosed with scoliosis at age 8, and originally I actually was seeing a GI doctor for IBS. So that could have potentially been to do with the scoliosis, but it was then my parents noticed a sort of hump on my back when I bent over one day, and they were like, "Oh, that doesn't look normal." So then when we went back to that doctor, even though he wasn't anything to do with, orthopedics or scoliosis, we said, "Do you know what this is?" And he said, "Yeah, I know exactly what that is. We'll get you referred. I think it's scoliosis." So then the journey sort of started from there.
And how did you deal with that diagnosis? And was it with your family and everyone around you?
I think because I was so young at the time of getting diagnosed, it was a lot to wrap my head around, and actually understanding what that meant and the impact of, okay, what does having scoliosis mean? It's not just a curved spine. It means, it can affect my digestion, my breathing, my growth, lots of other different things. So it was having to understand that that's what it actually was.
Do you have any tips for someone who might be at the beginning of their journey of scoliosis that helped you get through to where you are today?
For anyone who's at the beginning of their journey, I would say it's a lot. It's fine. It's okay if you feel scared, because it's a huge thing and it's a big thing to go through. But just know that if you've been referred to a specialist, then you're under the best hands possible, and they'll know exactly how you should be treated. You might have to be braced, you might have to get surgery, but just know that whatever you decide to do or whatever your specialist recommends, it will benefit you for the long run, and you can still live your life the way that you've always imagined it would be.
Amazing. So you're here because you just run the half marathon, which is incredible. Congratulations. So what would you share for other people with scoliosis who might think they can't run after surgery or they can't walk after surgery? Have you got any tips of how you recover from that mindset?
For anyone who is maybe a bit scared or apprehensive to start exercising because you might have scoliosis, or maybe you've just had spinal fusion. Of course, if you've had spinal fusion, you need to wait till 1 year post-op, but just know that your body is so strong, and you've just been through a major surgery, and it takes a lot for your body to be able to heal. But that in itself shows how incredible your body is, and that it can do all these incredible things, but you aren't weak. And I think that's like the key thing that I want to show to people, is that you aren't this thing that needs to be wrapped up and protected. You actually do need to strengthen your back and your muscles in order to, help your fusion and help your spine be even stronger. So exercising, doing weights, running, it will all in the long run really benefit you. And potentially, obviously I'm not health trained or can give any professional advice from that that side of things, but for me, I found that it has stopped me from getting tensed up. It stopped me from feeling all achy and clicky and just moving my body. I feel like it also makes you feel really empowered, because you're doing something that you once imagined you'd be able to do. So I think in that way, it's just such wow, I can actually do this.
Yeah.
I can actually do all these things.
So what's your favourite exercise?
Oh, my favourite exercise. So about a year ago, I absolutely hated running. I couldn't think of anything worse. And then around August last year, I was like, I think I'm just going to just try. Come on, let's just try running. So I was like, well, firstly, because of my back and wanting to look after my body, I wanted to get proper shoes. So went and got a gait analysis, got on the running machine, chose some shoes which were good for me, which felt good. And then I was like, okay, I think before I was just trying to run way too quick. So just pacing myself and not expecting too much, and gradually over time built up the fitness, and I actually now really enjoy running. And
amazing.
Of course, that's why I then decided, well, let's just do a half marathon. Let's see if we can do it. Let's train for it. But I also really enjoy hybrid stuff. So there's something called High Rocks, which is a competition which is quite well known around the world at the moment. And that's a mixture of strength and running, and also it's a bit of a competition, so the competitive side gets out.
Okay, nice.
But I've booked to do one later on in the year, so that's my next challenge, and what I'm hoping to push my body to do next.
Amazing. And you've raised just over £7,000 for us, which we are immensely grateful for. Can you just tell us why it's so important to raise money for the Royal Orthopaedic Charity and the hospital that helped you?
The Royal Orthopaedic Hospital and Charity are the reason why I am in the position I am today. Without their care, I wouldn't be running the half marathon I just ran. I wouldn't be able to exercise in the way that I am. If I hadn't had surgery, I don't even want to imagine what position I would be in now, because it's definitely not where I would be. It's a hospital which has such amazing care and such incredible staff. I would love other young people and adults who are having spinal fusion to have that same experience that I had. A seamless journey, you know, getting surgery done, the professionals knowing what they're doing and be able to go, it's okay, you're going to be fine, and just having that trust that you are going to be fine because you are surrounded by such an amazing place and such knowledgeable people. So for me, the most important thing was knowing that this money that I've raised and that my family and friends and family have helped raise will be helping other people who 10 years ago, when I was waiting for surgery and when I was going through the whole diagnosis process, that they will eventually come out the other side of it stronger and being able to live their lives to the fullest.
Amazing. And hopefully run a half marathon too.
Who
Like
knows?
you. Who knows? Who knows?
Others to do it.
So you've got a podcast, the Screw Loose podcast. Can you tell us more about that?
So the Screw Loose podcast is something which I've started recently, where I talk about lots of different topics to do with spinal fusion, scoliosis, and I dabble in a little bit of like other women's health topics as well. But it's basically a space to open up the conversation a little bit more, because at the start of this year I started to like post a little bit more on TikTok and Instagram about my journey and about how having scoliosis doesn't stop you, and having spinal fusion doesn't mean that you can't do all these great things that other people do. And I started to get a lot of questions from people being like, how do you do this? How do you do that? I've just had surgery. What are your best tips? How do I recover? Where do I go from there? I feel really scared. Or even things like, a lot of people who get spinal fusion done or have scoliosis are very young, you know, like in kind of the teen years, early teens. And I feel like at that time you start to become more conscious of how your body looks and comparing yourself to other people and being like, well, they don't have a curved spine, why does my back look like that? Using the podcast as a space to show people that you aren't alone, and you may feel this way, we may look like that, but there are so many other people who also have been through that experience, and that it does make you a stronger person. I wanted to use it as a platform to get other people to come and speak about their experiences and their stories, just to make all the information available to everyone, and sort of bring it all together into one thing.
What I think is really amazing about that is, I imagine when you're quite young and you get all this medical information, it's quite overwhelming. You're just like, I don't fully understand it. So to reach out to you who's been there and talk in normal language and is probably really comforting when you've been diagnosed and you're a bit kind of unsure as to what's been said, and they come to you and they just ask a question, you just tell them straight, and that's really great.
Like, don't get me wrong, there's so many great professional opinions and podcasts out there, but sometimes you do just want a bit of a friend to talk to, someone who has been in the exact same position that you have, knows how you feel, and isn't kind of throwing all these technical terms at you, but sort of just going, look, it's going to be okay, I've come out the other side of this, you'll be able to get through it as well.
Amazing. So do you have any other races in you, do you think?
Because I've done the half marathon and I was like, wow, I didn't think my body would ever be able to do that. You know, this time last year I couldn't run a 5k, and it was only at Christmas that I did my first 10k. Now I've done that half marathon, I'm now thinking, well, just double that, then it's a marathon. And I'm sure with training and putting my mind to it that I would be able to do it. So for me it would be, I would love to do a marathon next.
And the endorphin hit when running is like nothing else.
Absolutely, yeah. And especially when it's a race as well, just the whole atmosphere of everyone, and the crowds are just what keep you going in the race.
So how did you feel when you were at the start line?
When I was at the start line of the half marathon, I felt nervous because I wanted to do a good job and I didn't want to let people down. But again, I think that's just the expectation I had of myself and what I wanted to achieve. But also because I was doing it for ROC, I wanted to make, the hospital proud and everyone here proud. But at the start line, there was lots of people who were feeling the same. So it was really nice to speak to like these girls that I met, and they were like, you know, it's my first one too. And someone else said, well, I've done it a few times before. And then they were like, okay, this is how the course is going to look. So it was nice to sort of chat through that. But at the same time, I just felt really excited because I almost saw it as my victory lap, and I'd done all the training, and this was now just the time to enjoy it and to celebrate what my body is able to do and what it's capable of.
Do you track in kilometres or miles?
Kilometres.
So which was your worst kilometre?
So my worst kilometre was probably kilometre 8. So around the 7k mark, I started to get a stitch.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, here we go. We're in for a ride now. And with a stitch, you don't obviously know how long it's going to last. You just have to kind of push through it. So I felt really proud because I didn't stop. I just carried on running. I just had to like breathe deeper. Yeah. And the stitch probably lasted for like 3k.
Okay.
So by about 10, 11k, it had started to go. And by that point, my sister, my dad and boyfriend were at the halfway point. So then it was like, oh, something to distract me.
So were there any other physical or mental hurdles you had during the race, and how did you overcome them, do you think?
In the race, there was a lot of hills.
Yeah.
And during my training, the plan that I use, it knew what the course is going to look like at Birmingham.
Okay.
So it kind of put into my training plan hill training. And I'm just so grateful that I actually did that.
Yeah.
Because going up those hills, don't get me wrong, it is still so tough. But having done that hill training, I was like, okay, like I'm finding this all right. Like I don't feel like I need to stop. But in my head, I was just going, come on, Grace, you can do it. You can do it. The hill's almost there. And I think that goes back to the mindset that I had when I was getting my surgery done. Sort of the first day after surgery, I got up and I had to get walking. And it was just that same thing of as soon as you get up, come on, you can do it. And I think that same sort of mentality has carried me through.
Yeah.
And that's what I sort of relied on during the race, was just the come on, you can do it.
Your surgery is almost like the bottom of the hill, and the recovery was the top of the hill.
Absolutely. And I think having spinal fusion surgery, it really strengthens you mentally. And when you have something so big like that done, I feel like whatever comes into your life after that point, you can just handle with more, you know, calm and ease, and you don't feel as sort of like about things, because you're like, well, I've
had spinal surgery.
Yeah, I've done something really difficult before. So I've proven to myself already that I can do hard things. So I think that's a similar mindset that you can take on to when doing really hard like runs or exercise or hard times in your life, is just reflecting on, well, I've already been through a really hard time, so I can get through this. I'll be okay.
That's amazing. What was the strangest thing you saw on race day?
So the strangest thing on race day, it was actually really heartwarming at the same time. There was a group of people in their 20s, I'd say, who were all running for the Oddballs charity. So they were all wearing like boxers, not just like, you know, like a crop top and pants.
Nice.
So it was really nice to see them all like together. They didn't like go off from each other. They all stuck as a group running together.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, there they are again.
Did you see the other runners that Rock had?
So at the start line, this girl came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder. I was like, RUC!
Yeah.
But yeah, she was the only person I saw. But whilst I was running, I didn't see any.
We did have a big team of another patient and his family and friends were running. There was about 10 or 12 of them. So what's been your highlight from fundraising so far?
My highlight from fundraising, I think, would be just seeing how generous people are, and that when it comes to charity and raising money for places that really matter, and when you know somebody that's gone through something, it's just really so lovely to see how amazing people and humans are and can be, even when we're in a time like this where it's like cost of living, things are expensive, people are really struggling. It really showed like the kindness in people. And for me, it was that, just the warming of the heart of like, wow, people are really amazing.
Yeah. Because you've done an amazing thing. So amazing deserves amazing, right? So how did you feel immediately after the race? You got over the line. I saw your post on TikTok and Instagram. It made me cry. So you must have been very emotional.
Yeah. As I was coming up to the finish line, I had my headphones on still, but I wanted to also like soak up the atmosphere. And it was really funny because my friends and family were screaming my name, and apparently I just appeared out of nowhere, but I couldn't hear them because I was just so focused on like, right, the finish line's there, come on, we can get to it. And I had this really like emotional music in my ears, and as I was approaching the finish line, I could feel myself tearing up. And then as soon as I crossed it, I just burst out crying. And of course, my luck, there was a videographer right there just filming the reaction of crossing the line. A mixture of complete euphoria, but also I never would have imagined me, little me, 11-year-old, 10 years ago, crossing the finish line in the city that I really learned how to walk in. Yeah. And being able to do it in Birmingham was amazing because it being where Royal Orthopaedic is.
So what's next for Grace?
For me, what I would love to do next is just to help other people and help others acknowledge that they are strong and that scoliosis doesn't really stop you, and it is all in the mind. Of course, there are maybe certain complications that you might have post-surgery or coming up to having surgery or just generally with having scoliosis, but your body is so much more capable of so many more things. And if you put your mind to it, you can do incredible things with your body if you want to. But it is just all about staying strong in the mind, because your mind gives up first before your body does. So, yeah, I think for me, it's helping to spread that message of you are strong and you can do hard things.
Wow, you are strong and you've been amazing, and we're so grateful for everything that you've done. Thank you.
Well, thank you.